You're the product of basically the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Troy Harris is an AI and blockchain educator and author of Crypto New Rich. Known for practical strategies regular people can apply, he'll simplify the noise and show you what to watch.
So many times parents think that what kids want is like to be showered in gifts. They don't. They just want you. We've gone from a fraction of a cent in 2009 to currently, as we're speaking, being worth over 120,000 US dollars just 16 years after its creation. That's not some kind of act of God. That's not some kind of coincidence or, oh, that's just lucky. No. In 2018, Bitcoin corrected all the way to $3,000. Ethereum corrected to $100. We literally sold our house. Every coin was going up. We're talking turning, I originally put in about $25,000, turn that into multiple 7 figures, right? Literally in the space of 18 months. And then...
Welcome to the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast. I'm Daniel Wood. Our mission here at the Swedish Wealth Institute is simple: to help you move further and faster by connecting you with the right mentor at the right time and giving you practical, proven steps that you can use today. Today's guest is Troy Harris, a leading expert in cryptocurrencies and blockchain investing. Troy has helped thousands of everyday people cut through the hype, understand the 4-year crypto cycle, manage risks like a pro, and use digital assets safely and strategically to build real, long-term wealth. If you've ever wondered how to participate in crypto without gambling away your future, this episode is for you. And because we believe in giving first, you're getting, as always, a special gift here from us at the Swedish Wealth Institute. We want to invite you to 2 weeks free access to the Swedish Wealth Institute community. Our members-only space with live Q&As, world-class mentors, weekly trainings, and a supportive network from all over the world that keeps you accountable and always in momentum. You'll find the link in the show notes. Please make sure you go claim it after you listen to the episode. If you haven't already, please make sure you follow and subscribe so you never miss one of our mentors, any of the tools, or any of the gifts. All right, let's start learning about cryptocurrencies. Here is Troy Harris. You've told me before that, years back, you were living paycheck to paycheck, you have 4 kids, and then all of a sudden, you turned that around to building a multi-million-dollar crypto portfolio. You've written a best-selling book. You did that in under a decade. So take us back to that living paycheck to paycheck and the exact moment where you realized, this isn't working for me. What was it that flipped that switch, and what was the first thing you did?
Yeah, great question. Great question, mate. Yeah, so there was I had a few of those moments, and as an entrepreneur and a very successful one at that, you know that often we're shaped by our failures, right? And then I'm a massive NBA fan, huge fan of the Chicago Bulls, obviously, because they were the MJ and Scottie Pippen when I was growing up. And MJ's mentality is like he embraces the failure. And someone else that's awesome with that is Kobe Bryant. So any basketball fans that may be out there would understand that. Really embracing the failures so then not only do you appreciate when the wins do come along, but you know just how hard it is to get there. But I mean, look, there was a few turning points. One in particular that I can remember was when a very good friend of mine unfortunately lost a battle with cancer. And she was someone that was only a couple of years older than me, and she had such a really good work ethic, right? Would always work, would always show up. But just when I showed her some of the crypto stuff, just didn't really get it, right? And then had that employee mindset, if you want to put it that way, right? And sometimes this life is so precious and so fragile, right? As you know, I'm sure people listening have lost loved ones suddenly, and it's so 1 second you're here, 1 second you're gone. And it's about trying to appreciate every moment. So that was a turning point. Another definite turning point I can remember was in 2015. It was just after my 30th birthday. I got given the book off a very good friend, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, as I'm sure a lot of people have read. I'd always seen some of his stuff, but I never sat down and read a book. And that was a huge turning point for me as well, a massive turning point. And
what was it in the book that spoke to you, that got you to go, wait a sec, I got to change?
The big one for me was assets over liabilities. So having an asset is something that puts money into your pocket, and liabilities is something that takes money out of your pocket. So just as an example that he shares in the book is, owning your own home. Here in Australia, it's called the Great Australian Dream, to own your own home and to pay it off as quickly as you can. So you own your own home. But in fact, your home that you live in is a liability, right? You're always putting your hand in your pocket to fix it and do things like that. And that was a huge awakening for me that kind of shaped me to bring me back to some of my early things that I'd gone away from, because my dad was a property investor, a property developer, and I kind of moved away from them, and it kind of like reconfigured things for me, and that was a key turning point.
So when you read that and got that reminder that, assets are good, liabilities are bad, what was the first thing you kind of changed in your life to start shifting from acquiring liabilities to acquiring assets?
Yeah, so another great question. So one of the key things that I had to shift first, and Robert kind of touches a little bit on that book, but there's multiple other books I read around that time, and I did some mindset shifting. I did some some things around Tony Robbins and things like that as well. Surrounding yourself with the right people, right? You are essentially, we've all heard it, you're the product of basically the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And that was a big part for me. And I'm not saying that I cut people out of my life, but I definitely reduced the amount of time that I was spending with people that just didn't align with where I wanted to go and where I wanted to be. So that was one of the big things that I did. That was an immediate shift, and that's a shift anyone can do.
Yeah, was that a conscious action you took, that you said, I'm going to cut them out, or was it more that you changed and therefore your relationships changed?
No, I'm a pretty simple guy, so it had to be a conscious action. It had to be something that I really checked in with myself and made myself do. I'm sure there was some subconscious part to it, but it was very much a conscious thing for me. I had to do it.
How did you go about doing it? Did you make a list and start crossing people out, or how structured was this?
So I'm very lucky to have a very loving and supporting wife. We've been in a long-term relationship now. I've been married since 2008. So we got married fairly young. We were in our early kind of 20s. And it was about having a chat with her about how just disgruntled I was and how I just wasn't where I wanted to be when I was 30. It's surprising I'm saying that now at 42. It seems a lifetime ago, but it isn't. It just feels like yesterday. But yeah, it was about, and I think that's a key part that so many people say, and you've probably heard this as well, Daniel, that so many people who are successful, they have some kind of like a cornerstone, or someone, if you want to call it a loving partner or maybe like a mentor that they can bounce things off. And that was, I had a good chat with her, and I said, this is the path that I need to do. I'm going to start reducing time around these people, and I want to start spending time around people I want to spend time around.
I think that's amazing. So many people, when they start this journey and they decide to make all these changes in their lives, it quickly can become very me, like I'm going to make these changes. But you still kept it as a we, which I'm sure she appreciated. When working with the kind of the Tony Robbins stuff, and when you started working on the mindset, was she a part of that journey, or did you kind of take these journeys separately?
Yeah, so great question again. My wife doesn't really get involved in too much from the business perspective. So what's beautiful about what we have is that her dream, shall you say, was about having a family that was close and also having healthy kids. And thankfully, I've been blessed with both. And so she's kind of living what she wants to do, which is raising our lovely children. And I say lovely; they can be painful at times. But look, I'm not sugarcoating things.
I have 3 sons. You don't need to explain to me how tough kids can be.
Well, I've got 3 sons and a daughter, and let me tell you, the youngest is the daughter, and she's the loudest, right? So it can be tough. So I'm sure you understand, Daniel. So yeah. So look. That was what she wanted to do, and so this was really about And you look, maybe it's a bit of an old school mentality that I have, but I really wanted to be able to, I'm doing this just as much for her, to be able to provide for her so she can also, live and be able to do what she wants to do.
Well, relationships are like teams, aren't they? I mean, sometimes we all work together doing the same thing. Sometimes we have different positions on the field. And as long as everyone's happy with their position, it works. So when you started working with Tony and really working on yourself, what was one belief about money that you had to kind of put to rest before you could move forward?
It's absolutely the cliche one, right? Which so many people say is that money is evil. And that money brings the worst out in people and things like that. That was definitely a big barrier for me. I had to improve my relationship with money, which obviously kind of was a kind of a double-edged sword with what I was learning with from reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and reading along those lines about assets over liabilities and things like that. But without a doubt, it was this mindset that I was put into, that money ultimately is evil and brings out the worst in people. Whereas, what we've learned after that is that, you can really use your money for good and really be able to help and provide and share. That's what ultimately I've learned from it. But that was a big one I had to overcome. That took a while.
Right. Let me ask you this as a dad, because you obviously have 4 kids, and you mentioned that your father was a property investor. So as a parent, we obviously want to teach our kids the positive money mindsets and how to go out in the world. And I try to give that to my children. Your father was already a property investor. I had no one in my family that had that background. And yet you still had all these things to overcome. Like, what did he impart to you? And like, why didn't you get all of that? Like, what was the difference in his mindset maybe to what you're doing now?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. So we go even deeper now, which is great. I love to go into these territories, which is something that I'm really working on, especially now I've got a 15-year-old, 13-year-old, 9-year-old, and 7-year-old. I didn't really have that close relationship with my father. I saw what he did, but and he shared little pieces. But looking back on it, I wish I knew what he did and I kind of understood the concept, but it was very much like an old school mentality of like, I'm out here doing this, I'm providing for the family, and it was really left up to my mum essentially to raise us children. They had 3 kids. I was a middle child. We won't go into the trauma of being a middle child. I'm only joking. But it was really left up to my mum to essentially raise us. And I'm trying to be much more conscious of passing on what I know. I feel like the things that I learned off him were good, but it wasn't like the things that could change my life. He still, even though he had investment in property and different things like that, he still had good things that I learned, which was work ethic and things like that. It's just that real kind of knowledge side. It's difficult to explain because you think, oh, he's a property investor. He had multiple properties. He ended up selling properties for millions of dollars, but he's still had and I say this with love because I still love my dad, but he still had a small-minded mentality, in my opinion, because it was kind of like he never expanded on top of it. Now, he might have been satisfied with what is created, but when I talk to him now, it's kind of like he's never satisfied, and I get that part, but it's really difficult to explain. But I just wish he had have passed more of that knowledge on and not limited me. I think it was more so limited thinking that I got in that period of time, and I had to really overcome that.
Right. Inviting you in more to his day-to-day routine and really seeing what and why and how.
Well, you would know, Daniel, right? There's nothing more. So many times parents think that what kids want is like to be showered in gifts. They don't. They just want you there and present. Right. And that's what I'm really trying to improve. I'm by no means a perfect dad at all. There's so many things I wish I could improve. But what I really am trying to do now, especially with my 15 and 13-year-old, is instill things where we're like the things that we wish we knew, right? Getting money working for us instead of us exchanging our time for money, and all these simple things that we look back, it's simple now, but it's that kind of breaking down those barriers.
Yeah, I had a really cool moment with my middle son actually here a while back. We were sitting in the car, and we were talking. He wants to be a pro footballer, as every 10-year-old kid wants to be, of course. And we kind of were talking about how hard he was working for it, and we drifted into like what would he otherwise do? And he kind of just turned to me and went, "Dad, it's going to be really easy." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, if I don't become a pro footballer, I'll just take over your company in the future and it'll be super easy." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if my company is really easy." Like, no, it's fine. I got 2 brothers. We'll do it together. And I was like, "Oh my God." It's like, oh, they're going to work together. And, with 3 sons, how often do you actually see them happily work together? And yet that was his, in his heart, he was like, no, I'll be fine. I'll take your business and we're 3. So we'll do it much better than you do, Dad.
I love the confidence. That's awesome.
Yeah. It says something about his confidence in me too, right? He's like, "Dad, we'll crush you. You got nothing." So you discovered awesome. Bitcoin back in 2016. That's probably around the same time that I did, and a lot of other people did. And I didn't do anything with it. I completely ignored it, as did most people of the world. What was it that drew you into it?
Yeah, so I first, if we want to talk about heard about it, I first heard about it in 2013, and did nothing until 2016. So the crazy thing is, where I first heard about it in 2013, so I was born in 1983, and there's a whole reason and meaning behind this, because in 2013, right, I turned 30. And I still remember it as clear as day. It was my 30th birthday party, and I was celebrating the last days in my 20s. We went out, me and a bunch of friends, and we went out in the city, and, you spend a bit of money, you have a few drinks. We went to the casino and we did all of this thing. And just joking about, a friend of mine who wasn't exactly the most responsible person, let me be clear, Daniel, was, we're at the casino and we were playing some blackjack. And anyway, the next day, he goes, "Oh, I'm still playing blackjack now." We're just joking. I'm like, "What, are you still at the casino?" He goes, "Oh no, I'm doing it online." And I'm like, "Online?" Like, this blew my mind. Remember, this is 12 years ago, 2013. I'm thinking, what, you can gamble online? What the heck? And he was talking about some random website that he was gambling on. And I said, "How do you even get?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, you do it with Bitcoin." And I'm like, "What on earth are you talking about?" Right. So I found out about Bitcoin through online gambling, through websites that weren't exactly legitimate websites, right? So that was my first introduction to Bitcoin. So as you could imagine, I was like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, right? Yeah, that's great. So that's where I first heard about it. But then there's a few moments that triggered my, when you hear about something, you go, "Oh yeah, righto," and then it triggers your mind. And I had a couple of incidents over the following couple of years where I remember there was one where a person come and picked up a car trailer from me. And it was like in the end of 2014. He said, he joked around saying, "Oh, can I pay for it in Bitcoin?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It was just joking. He's like, "Oh, no. And we just started talking. I'm like, someone told me about this. And then anyway, it just little things like that had happened. And then it came across my radar because in 2016, I actually got made redundant from a government job that I had, and I got quite a decent payout from it. And I was like, I'd had my eye on it for about a year, and I'd watch it go. I watched it go from about, $200 US dollars to about $1,000 US, and then it had dropped to about 900. It was like 850, 900 US dollars, and I was like, "This is my time." And I used like 3/4 of my payout, which was tens of thousands of dollars, and I put it into Bitcoin at like 850 and Ethereum at like $13.
And what gave you the confidence to actually do that? Like, it was still such a hype, it was so unknown. It was still the rest of us didn't do this.
There was definitely a bit of stupidity behind it. I'll be completely honest with you, Daniel, of not having, this was before I'd read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This was before I'd done this, anything from a Tony Robbins perspective. This was a bit of like a Hail Mary, right? I'd got paid a significant amount of money. I worked out how much money I could have left to not work for the next 2 months, and I put the rest into Bitcoin and Ethereum, which was at the time probably pretty stupid. But at the time, I'd really worked super hard because I'd left school at 15. So I'd worked hard for 15 years, and we'd paid off a significant chunk of our home. We're living in all these other things. So I justified it in my own mind. The problem was, Daniel, it wasn't a happy ending, because what happened 2 weeks or about 3 weeks later, Bitcoin crashed from like $850 to like $300 or something. So me being an inexperienced investor, what did I do? I sold half of it. Now, thank the heavens, I only sold half of it. I didn't sell all of it because I just couldn't handle the loss, but I sold half of it. And the other half, I was in the process of interviewing for a new job, because this was like 2 months later and my money had run out. And I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. This is like around early to mid 2016. And I'm just going to sell half of it and forget about it. And anyway, I started the new job. I worked there for a few months, and then I popped up on my phone. I'm like, oh, Bitcoin's back at $800 again. I thought it was dead. I thought my investment was gone. And then from that point, the following year, it went from like $800 to the high at the end of 2017, which was like 20,000 US dollars, right? So I rode the wave all the way. And then we went into different altcoins. I could go into the whole story and I won't, but basically, I've had lots of failures along the way because I was in different coins that did massive, massive gains at the end of 2017. There was this thing called the ICO craze. Every coin was going up. We're talking turning, I originally put in about $25,000, turned that into multiple seven figures, right? Literally in the space of 18 months. And then seeing that go from multiple seven figures, like I'm talking north of 5 million, to back down to like back down to like 500,000, right? It was like, and that was the rise and the fall, and that was a massive learning experience. And people say, oh geez, what was it like to lose all that money? I said, well, actually, I originally only put in 25K, and I've still got like a fair bit of money here. So there was a bit of that young at heart, let's give it a go, Hail Mary. But it was also, there was a bit of, I understood the concept. I understood the basic concepts of investing, but I knew I needed to learn more. So that was the point where I was like, I tripled down on the Kiyosaki thing. In 2018, Bitcoin corrected all the way to $3,000. Ethereum corrected to $100. We literally sold our house. Through the period of 2017 to 2018, that 12-month period, I basically didn't sleep. All I did was do thousands of hours of research into Bitcoin and crypto. At the end of 2018, at the drop of the market, we sold our house, and I went all into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and the rest is history.
Wow. Well, so take us on that journey when you went from 25K. Obviously you sold half, but then it bounced back, and then it goes up to 5 million and it comes back down. Like, what were a couple of the key lessons that told you that, all right, let's study this properly?
Yeah. So it was really difficult. I had to wait for the hype to stop. So when the hype was on, and we call it the euphoria of the bull market, and every coin's going up. So you could literally, everyone's a genius at that point, right? Because every coin goes up. So everyone's a genius. And so you can just be like, oh, I've made tons of money. I had to wait till the hype stopped. I had to wait till all the cards fell. I had to take the loss. Now, I wasn't deliberately doing this, but I had to take the loss and the failure, where I was still up like 20x, but I was up like hundreds of X, right? There was one particular coin that multiplied by like 300 times. It was insane, right? So I had to accept going from multi-millions to virtually just under 500,000. I had to take that loss. I had to swallow that loss. And that was the part where I'm like, once the dust had settled, I discovered a couple of really, really good mentors in the Bitcoin and crypto space, and I started following those guys. And I started just going, okay, cool. I need to realize here that this is a long-term play. So in the thousands of hours that I did of research between 2017 and 2018, what triggered me to do that was essentially knowing that this isn't just a bubble. This isn't just something that just blows up and then disappears. This can't be that, because I knew enough about Bitcoin to know the things that it stood for, which is decentralized. It was wasn't owned by any government, it wasn't owned by any organization. I also knew the power of that point. I'd understood the power of the Bitcoin halving, how it halves the amount of Bitcoin that gets sent out to the network every 4 years. So I understood that. I understood enough to go all in on it. But it's kind of like there's no other way to explain it until I say once you've been orange pilled, which means the penny drops with Bitcoin, you understand that it's always going to go up against the dollar and it'll never stop going up against the dollar. The only time it can stop going up against the US dollar or any other currency in the world, any other paper fiat currency, world government issued currency, whatever you want to call it, is if they stop printing money out of thin air. Now, tell me, Daniel, is any US president in the foreseeable future going to stop printing money out of thin air? Of course they're not, right? And that drives every other economy in the world to print money out of thin air. And that's why we're getting hit with massive inflation. And we could go on and on and on. That is why Bitcoin will always go up against the dollar. It's the ultimate deflationary asset. I say the ultimate deflationary asset because it's in direct contrast to inflation and all the BS that we cop with world government currencies and holding them. As Kiyosaki said, savers are losers. If you save money, you're a loser.
Yeah, basically the value of the crypto, the Bitcoin currency is going up while inflation means all other currencies are losing value and things are costing more. So I like that as you went through this journey, because I think a lot of people's lesson were, even those who did like you and went in early and then rode the whole way up and then crashed back down. And still, as you say, you were up 20x from your initial investment, but you were also down 90% from your top. I think a lot of so I think a lot of people, they took that and said, all right, the bubble's over. We're done. I'm cashing out. It was a fun little thing. And you doubled down and said, no, even though we went on this ride and all these people are going to leave for a while, I see the potential and I see why it's going to work long term. And obviously, so far, you're proven very, very right. What happened for you to actually start teaching these principles? Because you took the next step from, now I've researched it, now I'm making money, this is working for me. And then you decided to share that with others. And we often get people who are skeptical and say, well, if you are doing so well, why would you give this away to others? So talk about that. What was the moment you started teaching and why?
Great questions. I'm loving these questions, Daniel. That's awesome. Yeah. So the reasons are, once again, remember how I mentioned earlier, the 5 people you spend the most time with is kind of like the product of who you become and who you are. I was very, very lucky and I'm very thankful. I'm not going to say lucky because I consciously made the effort to hang around these people, but I'm very thankful that those 5 people that I hung around with, there's about 7 in total, but they say 5, were people who understand the power of whatever you give, you receive back 10 times the amount every single time. Anyone who has ever given something, really given some value in their life, you receive that back 10x the amount. And you would see this, Daniel. I've seen your events go from strength to strength to strength. And it's because you're giving people who go to your events so much value, right? And whatever value you give, you receive that back 10x. And that was a huge part of it. I'm so incredibly passionate about the Bitcoin and crypto space that it really resonates with me. I say to people this all the time, and I say, even if, obviously we met through events and through friends of friends and things like this, but even if we never met, even if I couldn't do podcasts, even if I couldn't travel the world and talk with Robert Kiyosaki on stage as I did a few weeks ago in Singapore, even if I lost my voice and I could never speak again, nothing changes for me financially. Nothing, right? Nothing. I do this because it's my passion. nothing changes for me financially. And that's because I've been able to set up systems in place to have my money work for me. And that's the most important thing. When you get to this point, and I'm certainly not at some kind of holy grail point. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that if I walked away and I never taught ever again, nothing would change for me financially. My educational business I do because I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so moved by people that have the incredible feedback we get from our customers and our students. It's awesome, but that just makes me get up and go again, right? So if you've got systems in place where you're making money, well, what am I going to do? Just sit on a beach and do nothing? Like, what kind of you want to kind of keep creating and keep being an inspiration. I think there's so many parts that inspire me every day, not just my students and my amazing team and coaches, but my kids inspire me to be better every day. My wife inspires me to be better every day. I want to always keep improving. Now, I understand not everyone's like that. And maybe some people are listening to this going, well, if I made that amount of money, I'd just move to the Bahamas and sit on a beach all day, or go to Thailand and, and that's I'm judging no one. I've got a very good friend of mine who currently lives in one of those countries and does absolutely nothing. And he can, because he did all the hard work and got to that point. Zero judgment from me whatsoever. But for me, there's something more. I always need something more. And I always sing the old Rolling Stones song in my head. I can't get no satisfaction. I'm always striving to be satisfied. I'm always striving for more. And I'm sure we've had talks before, Daniel, you're the same. You're always striving for more. And I think that's just driven by passion. There's no other way to say it.
No, I've heard this similar answer from pretty much every speaker we've spoken to. I was talking to Lewis Crompton, who said, his strategy, it takes him half an hour a day. What's he supposed to do with the other 23 and a half hours? And the beauty of it, in most industries, you're not going to lose anything from other people getting into it. And for those who are pessimistic, in your case, you actually win. The more people that get into crypto, the more the whole industry rises. And as they say, exactly. a rising tide raises all the boats. So if someone wants to be pessimistic and go, well, he doesn't really want to teach. Well, you still want people to get in and be successful, because it does raise the value of the entire market and gets more people using it. So there's never, in my opinion, there's never not a reason to share successes and share strategies, because it always leads to something good. As you say, it comes back tenfold, either directly or indirectly.
Well, with crypto, mate, we're still a drop in the ocean. Compare crypto to world financial crypto. The entire crypto market cap's only like 3.4 trillion. Whoa, world markets is like 150 trillion. Like we're talking.
Oh yeah, that's less than the movement in a day in the Forex markets.
Absolutely, right? So when people say, "Oh, Troy, I'm too late to Bitcoin," I'm like, hang on a second, let me just check. Have I missed something? Has the US government stopped printing money out of thin air? Am I missing something here? Because you are never ever too late to Bitcoin, ever.
I like that. And you now run, Crypto New Rich, where you teach. What I like about the way you teach is that you're teaching people to build wealth, but you're kind of taking away the crazy speculation that most people are doing when they're getting into crypto and they're trying to pick what is the next new ICO or meme coin to go through. What is one principle that you can give us as a listener to like, all right, I want to get into crypto. I want to make these, I've heard of 10,000% returns. How do I get in and maybe get a part of those incredible profits, but without also getting the incredible losses?
Yeah. So one of the big things you have to do is, I'll say it in a sentence. How much do you actually want this? How much do you want to have financial freedom? How much do you want to have success? How much do you want to be, have the ability to do whatever you want and it doesn't change the amount of money you get paid? So what I mean by that is, if you want this enough, then you will get involved in crypto. And even if you have failures, you'll come back again and again and again. And you'll keep going back, because you'll realize that Bitcoin in the crypto space, there's a reason why Bitcoin's the best performing asset in human history, right? We've gone from a fraction of a cent in 2009 to currently, as we're speaking, being worth over 120,000 US dollars just 16 years after its creation. That's not some kind of act of God. That's not some kind of coincidence or, oh, that's just lucky. No, it's the people who study it and understand it. Michael Saylor says it fantastic. We call him a Bitcoin evangelist, but he's a billionaire. He's got tons of Bitcoin, and he says those who do, is it 100 hours or 1,000 hours? 1,000 hours of study in Bitcoin, you will never ever buy another asset class again in your life, because you realize it's the ultimate deflationary asset. As I said, it always goes down against the dollar. So I always say to people that if you're prepared to do the work and understand it, right? What I'm very proud of with my Crypto New Rich book and with the Crypto New Rich program is that it delivers everything that I wish I got delivered in 2016, right? But it delivers it in a way of someone who now has 9 years worth of experience, not just from the technical stance, but also from the mindset stance and how the cycles work. So I have some incredible feedback from my book and my program, which I'm super proud about. But one of the big things is after people watch it or they read the book or they do whatever, and you know this, Daniel, it's not going to mean, sorry to swear here, but it's not going to mean shit unless you implement it. Action takers. Unless you take action, that is the most important step. You can read 5,000 hours worth of literature on Bitcoin. It's not going to change anything to your bank balance unless you take action. So what I'm really proud about with the program is that how it breaks everything down, and it teaches, especially if you're a beginner, it teaches it in a very, very palatable way. And in my opinion, I might be sound a little bit biased here, but I've read tons of Bitcoin books. This is the first book that, and that's why I created it, that truly touches on the reason why people originally get into Bitcoin and crypto, and that's to make money. Right? Let's not beat around the bush here. I'd love to say that I was some kind of evangelist and, I got into Bitcoin because it's decentralized and no government can control it, no business owns it. I'd love to say all those things. These were things I learned after the fact. I got into it because I wanted financial freedom. I wanted to be able to work from home. I wanted to be able to spend time with my kids. I wanted to be able to watch them grow up. I wanted to be able to go to their school events, their swimming carnivals, their sporting carnivals. I wanted to do whatever I want whenever I want to. Those were the reasons why I got into it. All the other things I learned after it, which just made me more and more bullish on it. So
yeah, I mean, we've had
really
well over 1,000 students go through your Crypto New Rich program, and I always get to hear the people tend to come to me with the negative, never with the positive, because they'll tell you the positive, they'll tell me the negative. The fact is, I haven't had a single person come and say anything negative about the program, which to me is absolutely amazing. So what is one thing that if I wanted to implement it now, like the most important lesson for me to, get into the market and do well, what should I do? What should I buy? Like what should I be doing now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to say the boring answer, then I'll give a bit of a better answer. So the boring answer first. The boring answer is that unless you have your head straight and you have your mindset correct, if you're buying because you want to get on the latest trend and you just think I'm going to get on this coin because, Mary at work told me to get on it, or John next door told me to buy the coin, or some YouTuber told me to buy this coin, then you're not going to make money because you're not investing. What you're doing is you're gambling, right? You're not investing your money, you're gambling your money. Now, what happens when you gamble? When you go to the casino, when you go to horse races, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose, right? Probably more like 99 times out of 100, you're going to lose. The house always wins. So the mindset is the most important part, and that's why I share a lot of mindset stuff. Now, I'll give you the more interesting question because people are like, it's always mindset you're talking about. But you and I know, Daniel, that the mindset's the most important part. It's 80-20. I always say 80-20. It's 80% mindset. The technical knowledge is just 20%. We can teach you the technical knowledge, buying Bitcoin, holding it, selling it, being able to transfer. That's the easy stuff. What's up here is the hardest stuff, right? Which is another reason why I think it's 87% of all lottery winners go broke within 2 years, right? Why? Because their mindset isn't right. So the more interesting question is like, what would you buy? What would you do? I'm going to make it a little bit more interesting, but not too crazy, because ultimately the 80-20 thing that I spoke about before is a rule that I like to kind of share with people when we're talking the absolute basics. Go 80% into what I call established coins. So what's an established coin? Bitcoin, Ethereum, kind of like your top 10 coins. Solana, coins like this. So you'd have like maybe a combination of all of them. You probably want to have Bitcoin at least half of that, right? About 40%. You have it nice and solid. And then the 20%, you can then go into more what I call speculative coins. So these are coins that are often outside the top 100 market cap. So a good way to get started is to think of it like established coins and speculative coins. Obviously, we narrow that down a heck of a lot more within the program and everything like that. But that's a good kind of basis and starting point. Without a doubt, your first cryptocurrency purchase, if you haven't purchased before, should and always will be Bitcoin.
Right. So keep to the big safe ones because I think one of the fears of people is, I missed out on the big rush up of Bitcoin. Should I really still be buying it, or should I be trying to find the next Bitcoin and buy it at 3 cents so I can take it all the way to 100,000?
Yeah. And I always say to people, have I missed a memo where the government stopped printing money? I need to know if that's the case. Now, of course, it all comes down to three things. Are you a low risk taker, a medium risk taker, and a high risk taker? And also, are you in it for the short term, the medium term, or the long term? Now, if you're in it for the long term, and by long term, guys, I'm talking at least 10 years, then Bitcoin is your only answer, right? That's your only answer. But if you're in it and you want to make some serious gains in the short to mid, that's what I really specialize in. And that's what I teach in the Crypto New Rich program, is how to get into the best altcoins. Because what we want to do, we want to get into the best altcoins because, as you've just mentioned.
An altcoin is basically anything that's not Bitcoin.
Correct. Yeah. I should have explained that. Yeah. So an altcoin is anything that's not Bitcoin, like what you just said. Ethereum, Solana, all these coins are altcoins. Bitcoin's the only one. Everything else is an altcoin or an alternative coin. So alt is as in ALT. And what I teach in the program is how to get into the best altcoins, which will ultimately give you a higher percentage return from a monetary sense. And then what we do is we get into the altcoins, ride them high. And then what we do is we sell them at the top of the cycle. Each of these crypto cycles happen every 4 years. The next anticipated high is at the end of this year. That's why everything's pumping up and so excited at the moment. And then we take the profits at the top, move it into what we call stable coins, which are coins that are equal in value to $1. And then as the market corrects itself, because all markets don't just keep going up, they always correct themselves. And as it corrects, we then use that dollar value that we got to purchase and buy in more Bitcoin. So every single cycle, I've accumulated more Bitcoin without ever buying more Bitcoin. And the way I've done that is by being in the right altcoins that increase in value much more during a bull cycle than what Bitcoin does. And then I put that back into Bitcoin. So every cycle, I've got more Bitcoin than the cycle I had before.
Right. That's a really exciting way to do it. So the goal of your investing is just acquire as much Bitcoin as I can. But because other coins move up quicker and down quicker, you grab, and now how to analyze that. So you grab them, you take the big ride that in a percentage is more than just buying Bitcoin right away, sell at the top, wait till the next bottom, get more Bitcoin, and then just reuse and recycle.
Yeah, like the last step on my 5 steps in the crypto pentagon strategy, which people see in the Crypto New Rich program, is multiple. And what multiple means is multiply your gains over multiple cycles. And that's what we do.
Very cool. Now, one of the big things that's happening in the world is AI, obviously. And you've said that AI and blockchain are converging faster than people realize. What's happening there? Because to me, as not, heavily into crypto, how are these intersecting? What's happening there? Because they seem like different technologies to me.
Yeah, it's a great question again. So yeah, basically, if you want to talk, we look at what's the best performing technologies and assets over the last 10, 15 years. Number one, we talk about Bitcoin, right? It's the best performing asset in human history. It's gone from a fraction of a cent to now being worth over 120,000 US dollars in 16 years. And what's the other thing that's gone crazy? Nvidia, right? Another great stock that's gone massively up in value. So we're talking about two areas of technology that have got, when you break it down, have got more acceptance of them than what the internet had 20 years ago. So the acceptance level of Bitcoin and crypto and the acceptance level of AI is rising faster at a quicker rate than the amount of people that were getting into the internet 20 years ago, right? Which is amazing. And it's super exciting. So that's just one example of how the worlds intertwined, shall we say. There's lots of other ways as well, because there's a whole nother area of crypto that I speak about in our workshops that we do and so on, which is decentralized finance. And decentralized finance is an area of finance that's completely out of centralized control. It's got nothing to do with banks, got nothing to do with centralized figures or governments or anything, right? And AI play a lot of a role, now play in 2025, a lot more of a role in decentralized finance than what it used to when decentralized finance first got created in 2018, 2019. And there's different things out there, like, once again, we don't have time to go right into it, but there's different things out there called like AI agents, which are essentially mechanisms and different AI tools that we can use to find the best liquidity pools and find the best returns that different protocols are giving us on the decentralized finance chains, because DeFi essentially gives us the ability to, I've got to explain this in a beginner's way. DeFi gives us the ability to provide liquidity to decentralized platforms and exchanges, whereas in a centralized market, all that can be created out of thin air, right? So when you go to get a loan, or you go to do whatever, like with money, a loan's a great example. Most people who's listening to this would have got a loan. That money that the bank puts in your account, they just create out of thin air, right? Essentially, that's where the money comes from. The numbers you see on your banking app, it's just all created out of thin air. So what we do in the decentralized world is that we actually provide the liquidity to these decentralized exchanges, decentralized platforms and protocols, and then people trade on them and do those kinds of things, and we make a return from those decentralized platforms. Now, this is a whole nother area.
Right. So it's kind of like crowdfunding. Am I understanding that right?
A little bit, yeah.
We're thousands of people that are giving you the loan together, rather than one centralized bank who calls the government and says, "Give us money."
Yeah, it is similar to it for sure. It's definitely similar to it, and you've got the best traders in the world now that are using decentralized exchanges, because it gives them the ability to trade on exchanges that aren't manipulated through centralization. So when we're talking crypto exchanges, a lot of centralized exchanges, and I don't want to call certain exchanges out, but you can look at just type in centralized crypto exchanges and a bunch of names will come up. They're names that you would have heard of that you think, oh, this is a trusted exchange. They're manipulated, these exchanges, because the majority of the world in crypto is unregulated at the moment. So if you own a very popular centralized exchange, it's like printing money at the moment, Daniel. Like, these guys are making tons upon tons upon tons of money, right? Because they can essentially create their own rules. So that's why the whole decentralized space is getting so big. And that's where AI is really going to play a massive role in the decentralized space. And that's where the worlds are really going to intertwine, shall we say.
That's really interesting. And we use AI agents all the time. I was doing it yesterday. I just had ChatGPT log into my different social media platforms to be able to find like certain connections that, had a certain industry. And it just worked absolutely amazing. It did all the work for us that would have taken us hours to do. Now, it took ChatGPT a while. I had to set it up, but then I could walk away. And I came back, an hour later, and all of a sudden I had my list of names and we could work from that. So if your entire portfolio, let's imagine that it disappeared tomorrow, what would you do first to start winning it back?
Yeah. So what I would do is I would implement everything. I'd go back and I would read my book back to front, and I would watch my Crypto New Rich program and implement everything that I taught. So some of the things that people who have already watched it or maybe are going to watch it will know that the big thing that I would do is I would implement what I call the VC theory. Now, VC stands for venture capitalist. And what a venture capitalist does is essentially they buy multiple different companies cheap, and then they don't put all their eggs in the one basket, right? They split it over a bunch of different companies. They understand that a couple of those companies are probably going to go bust, go bankrupt, but the majority of those companies, because they bought them at the beginning at a startup level, they're going to make money on them, right? So I would implement what I call the VC theory. I would go through my analysis that I now know, and I would find the top 10 coins, which I know are my top 10 coins. And I would, I would go through and build that portfolio back up again, because that portfolio is a perfect balance, in my opinion, of short, intermediate, and long-term gains. So it kind of covers everyone's, it kind of covers all the different areas. So I would implement the VC theory, which is essentially investing in 10 different cryptos, from using 80-20. So I'd use the 80% established coins, 20% speculative coins. So I'd have 8 coins that are established, 2 that are speculative, and I would have them in the VC theory portfolio. And that's what I would do if everything disappeared tomorrow. I'd just start that and do it again.
And then
it's just time.
Yeah, simply cycle it the way you were talking about with let them ride and then get more Bitcoin, and you do the exact same thing, just you'd lose a couple of years of the progress.
That's all it would be. It would be I'd just lose a couple of multiples, but then I'd just have to wait a couple more multiples. That's all it would be, because that system just works. You just do it over and over again.
Nice. All right. So we end every of these episodes with a rapid fire round. So I'm going to give you 6 tough questions and you just answer right away. All right. You ready?
All right. Let's go.
All right. So what is the best crypto tool or app that you can get for under $100?
Oh, there's so many. MetaMask, because it's free.
Yep. What's the worst piece of crypto advice you've ever heard?
Buy XRP.
Okay. We maybe should dive into that one. We're not. So we'll leave that as a cliffhanger that you'll answer later. One myth about crypto that you'd retire today?
That it's a Ponzi.
Yeah. A quote that you lean on when the markets get rough?
From Warren Buffett. Buy when there's blood on the streets.
Very good. What's the one big thing that's coming up for you in the next 12 months?
The all-time high in Bitcoin should be coming very soon. So that's not just coming for me, but everyone in the community. So yeah,
that is something to be excited about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many exciting things. I'm currently working on a few different things in my world, but yeah, that's a super exciting part, because that's where we get to cash in on all the hard work we've done.
Yeah. Awesome. So we end every episode with gifts, because we love spoiling our audience and our community. So we asked you to prepare something for us. Do you have something fun?
Yeah, absolutely, Daniel. Yeah. So if you've liked what you've heard and you want to learn everything that I know out of my brain, I want to give everyone that's watching this podcast the opportunity to learn it, no matter what's in your bank balance. So I believe, Daniel, we're going to give everyone a code that they can enter, where they can get my entire Crypto New Rich program for free.
Yep. And we'll share the link below as well as that discount code. So you go to the page, you click to buy. And normally this program is actually about $300 to join. So I really appreciate it. So everyone is getting this fully free. I'm making sure we confirm this now, so we're super clear. Everyone's getting it fully free. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you get to jump in. And so what is the program? What is Crypto New Rich? What are we actually getting that would normally be $300?
Yeah. So what you'll learn about is, as I said, it's the last 9 years of my experience in crypto, and you learn about what I call the 5 essential steps in the Crypto New Rich. I talk about the crypto pentagon. I'll talk about those 5 steps. So the cycle, the narrative, the portfolio, the timing, and finally the multiple, how to gain it over multiple cycles. So I kind of I narrow it down to how you can make money in crypto. Yes, of course, there's incredible parts of the technology, but ultimately I break down what people really want to know. Troy, how can I make money? And that's what I teach.
And this is a live virtual event, so you'll have a chance to ask you questions. How many days is this? How many hours each day?
Yeah, so what we've got is the actual Crypto New Rich program are all recorded modules that you can watch at your own leisure. But what you'll also get in addition to that is you're going to get an invitation to my 2-day live workshop. So that's going to be a live workshop that we're going to do. That's coming up in the next week or two. And yeah, you'll be able to go on, ask any questions to me, my coaches. I usually have myself, my business partner, Darren, and a couple of coaches on, and we cover a bunch of stuff. So that goes for over 2 4-hour days. It's completely virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You get a Zoom link and tune in. But apart from that, after you've watched the modules, you've gone to the workshop, realistically, Daniel, you're only talking really an hour or so a week just to do a portfolio check, and that's really all you need to do.
Nice. Awesome. So thank you so much for that. And do you want to leave us with any last words of wisdom before we let you go?
Probably the biggest thing I'll say is action takers always get rewarded. That was the big thing that I look back on my last 15 years of this whole journey, from going from paycheck to paycheck, like what Daniel said, to now being financially free, has been I took action, right? I actually did something. I didn't just read about it and think about it and look and go, oh, should I do this? Should I not? I took action. Now, we've all made failures. I'm sure Daniel and I could probably do a 15-hour podcast of all the failures we've had. But the reason why we're so successful and we're here now is because of all those failures. Embrace the failures. Wear them as a badge of honor, because it'll build you up to be an even better person when the successes come.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us, Troy, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks again, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
What an incredible conversation with Troy Harris. I hope this episode helped you see how to approach crypto with clarity, confidence, and long-term wealth building strategy. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you follow and subscribe right now so you never miss any of our coming episodes or free gifts. And of course, we want to reward you as an action taker. So here we have a special present for you. You can claim your free ticket to our upcoming Your Path to Financial Freedom Summit, which features legends like Robert Kiyosaki, Les Brown, Nick Vujicic, Jack Canfield, and Brian Tracy, many of whom you've already met here on the podcast and who are coming on the show in future episodes. This is your chance to learn directly from the world's top wealth and mindset mentors. Go to SwedishWealthInstitute.com to find the next ticket in your time zone and claim it right now before they run out. Speaking of world-class mentors, our next guest here on the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast is Marcy Shimoff, New York Times bestselling author of Happy for No Reason and Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul, and star of the movie The Secret. She's going to reveal the science and strategy behind lasting happiness, success, and inner peace, no matter your circumstances. This episode will shift your state, rewire your mindset, and help you build the emotional foundations for lasting wealth and fulfillment. You absolutely do not want to miss this. So please hit the subscribe button, share this episode with anyone who's ready to level up, and I'll see you at the Financial Freedom Summit. I'm Daniel Wood. This is the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast, where your path to financial freedom begins.
So on one hand, I felt like an author rock star. But when I walked over to these huge windows overlooking Lake Michigan, it was just, and I turned around and I collapsed onto the bed and I burst into tears because I realized that it's called building your inner home for happiness. So it's easier to remember it this way. A home has 7 main components. The average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. And for the average person, 80% of those are negative. It's called, we inherited it from our caveman ancestors. Don't beat yourself up for having it. Well, that means 90% of our happiness set point is, I say hallelujah to that. Science has cracked the happiness code here. I think this should be taught in all of the schools because